Hey guys, it's me Suren back with another video. It's Tuesday, so I haven't seen you guys in a few days. Hope everyone had an okay week last week and a good weekend. This video is going to be about just some things that I want to explain. I made a couple posts on Tumblr that went viral over the weekend, which is weird. One of them was on the main trending topics page. So it seems like you guys really are interested in some of these concepts, and three sentences on a Tumblr blog post really aren't enough. So I wanted to kind of go more in depth into some of the things that I was saying that you guys liked. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. As you all know, we got another no indictment last week in the murder of Eric Garner, which we can all, log onto YouTube and watch at any time. He was placed in an illegal chokehold. They were made illegal, in New York in the 90s because they have a habit of killing people. He was placed in this illegal chokehold. He was choked to death. He was crushed. He was asphyxiated. The coroner rules his death a homicide, and yet last week a grand jury declined to indict the officer that killed him. So essentially, you have someone that was murdered, but we're being told no one killed him. Don't know how that works, but okay. So in hearing the no indictment, I put something on Tumblr. I was going to say tweet. Whoa. I put something on Tumblr because once the no indictment was announced, you saw these kind of waves and waves of protests. Of course, in New York, where it happened, in Staten Island, they took to the streets. And then you just saw really all over the country. And for the last few days, I'm sure you guys have all seen, Oakland, New York, of course, it's still in Ferguson, but just all over Miami, Chicago, Boston, all the major cities. And then even globally, we've seen, Tokyo, New Delhi, Toronto, Paris, Germany. We're really seeing a huge collective, movement moment that we're in right now. But a lot of people, as the protests have kind of swelled, have started to get concerns that, as the protests grow larger and larger, we're kind of moving away from the main focus of what we, kind of originally were protesting, which is police brutality against Black and brown bodies. Specifically, that's what we started out protesting. That's what we've been protesting in Ferguson. Police brutality against Black and brown bodies. A lot of people feel like other causes are using the Ferguson protests to kind of springboard into, all these different directions. And actually, USA Today has a great article, which I'm going to link, that's literally called Ferguson Has Become a Springboard for Many Movements. And they kind of go in depth. They talk about how a lot of the Occupy protesters, Occupy Wall Street and things like that, have started, drawing links between police brutality and classism. So they've been, I don't want to say crashing protests, but they've been, showing up to protests with, we are the 99% signs. And I support Occupy. I was a part of the Occupy movement in New York before it got shut down. So you see that. They've also had some like fast food workers and, low income, low wage workers that have been fighting, for higher wages. They've been, kind of showing up to protests, drawing, more links again, classism and Ferguson and things like that. And a lot of people are expressing concerns that, even though these topics are also valid, that they're taken away from, the main point of what our protest was about when we first started protesting for Mike Brown, which is police brutality against Black and brown bodies, period. So I put up a Tumblr post. Is there like a specific word for that? I keep wanting to say tweet. I put up a Tumblr post that said, "Don't let white people hijack the message." And then I put 3 hashtags. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag I Can't Breathe. Hashtag Hands Up Don't Shoot. And then I put It's Still About Race. Immediately this post took off and a lot of people were reblogging it. And then a lot of people reblogged it with some questions about, Black Lives Matter, well, all lives matter. I don't feel like it's right. Of course, it's not me personally. This is what someone said. I don't feel like it's right to say, only Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. We should be saying that all lives matter. That sounds nice. Sounds like a nice thing to say. All lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. However, all lives right now, at this current state, are not being treated like they matter. Every single time a police officer, an armed vigilante, a private citizen, or a security guard kills an unarmed black person, which occurs every 28 hours, we are being told that our black lives specifically do not matter. A black person is killed every 28 hours, not a white person, not a Hispanic person, not a Chinese person, not an indigenous native, a black person. A black person specifically is killed every 28 hours by a police officer, a security guard, or an armed citizen, a private citizen, a vigilante. So we have a right to say Black Lives Matter, especially when we're getting these no indictments time after time after time. You have people that say, well, police brutality is not a race issue, I can bring up all these links of, white people that have been abused by the police. Yes, police brutality on its own is its own issue. However, when we protest and say Black Lives Matter, we're not talking about just police brutality on its own as a broader issue. We're talking about police brutality as it pertains to the systemic racism that is targeting black and brown bodies, which leads me to my next post, which went viral. When I said, "Dear white people, police brutality and lethal force against black and brown bodies are merely symptoms of larger issues in this country like systemic racism. Working to end police brutality without focusing on race and racism is like cutting off the arm of an octopus. You've dealt with one issue, but there's still 7 arms of racism still kicking." This post immediately took off. I got tons of people commenting saying, thank you for making this post. I've been trying to explain this to my friends and I don't know how to explain it. So I really want to go a bit more in depth in this one, and please feel free when you're explaining to your friends, explain it just the way I'm about to say it, because it's really, really simple and easy to understand, okay? Think of racism in this country, in America, in the United States. Think of racism in this country as an octopus, okay? I know that sounds absurd, but just think about it. Stay with me here. Racism in this country, in the U.S., is like an octopus, okay? An octopus has 8 legs. I did this, but 8. An octopus has 8 legs, right? So you have to look at it that way. So if racism is an octopus and an octopus has 8 legs, each leg is a different branch of racism. So you have one leg, which is police brutality and the unfair targeting of black and brown bodies in this country. You have one leg, which is the government, the local government that might be majority white, even though it's a minority area. It's a majority black area or brown area, Hispanics, but you have a white government. Another leg could be the education system. There's parts of the country right now where the school systems are more segregated than they were at the height of Jim Crow, and you have the black and the brown schools that they're getting shitty education. They have low quality materials. They don't have enough teachers, they don't have enough books and chairs and things like that. So that's another leg of racism. You have another leg of racism that is, the prison system, the mass incarcerations, the school to prison pipeline, the fact that black people, even though we make up a minority of drug abusers, we make up the majority of people that are found guilty on drug charges. White people use more drugs than us, but we make up the majority of the drug offenders that are in jail right now. So, there's another leg. So all these different legs of racism, they all make up the octopus, which is racism in this country. So, of course, when you're getting slapped in the face with the tentacle of police brutality, it's easy to want to focus on just this one tentacle and say, well, it's not about race, it's about police brutality. Police brutality can affect all of us. That's very easy to do, and to want to throw all your efforts into, cutting off this one tentacle, this one arm of racism. But when you try to fight police brutality without addressing the race and the racism, the main body of the octopus, what you end up doing is, even when you cut that tentacle off, you're still going to have 7 more tentacles of racism, still alive, still moving, still kicking, that you're still going to have to deal with. So you're still going to have to deal with education. You're still going to have to deal with mass incarcerations and prison rates. You're still going to have to deal with the government, You're still going to have to deal with all these things because the underlying issue is not police brutality in and of itself. The underlying issue is racism. So there is no, remove race, don't make it about race, stop making it about race. The octopus is race. You guys are talking about one leg. We're talking about a bigger picture, a whole entire thing, of race. And I also think I want to address this as well. I feel like people are getting police brutality and militarization of the police confused as well. When we talk about police brutality in black and brown neighborhoods, again, we're talking about the deliberate, systemic persecution of black and brown bodies and the deliberate targeting of black and brown bodies. What a lot of people I see, what they're talking about, they're not talking about that. They're not talking about the deliberate, targeting of black and brown bodies by police. They're talking about the militarization of the police force. They're talking about the fact that, local police forces are part of federal programs where they receive subsidized, military-grade weapons without the proper training. They're talking about the fact that said military programs give the police a us versus them mentality and can lead to higher instances of police brutality. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about two different things. We're protesting two different things. So don't try to elbow into our Black Lives Matter protest with this all lives matter, all people are subject of police brutality, because that's not actually what you're talking about. You're talking about force. Militarization of the police, which is a completely separate issue and one that I agree needs to be addressed, but not at a Black Lives Matter rally. That's not the appropriate place. You guys hear what I'm saying? Like, that's not the appropriate place. And I actually saw a great comic that I'm going to link to so you guys can see it, and I'm going to read it to you, but please go look at it. It's two people talking, and one of them says, well, I think all lives matter. We should care exactly equally at all times about everything. And then you see two houses. One is burning and one is not. And you see the person putting the water, the hose, on the house that's not burning. And they're saying all houses matter. And that's a great, drawing, depiction. I went to a protest. We were blocking traffic. And there's this woman. She's like screaming at her car. She's so angry. She's like, you guys are saying Black lives matter. That's not fair. All lives matter. Blah, blah, blah. One, first of all, when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying white lives don't matter. We're not saying Mexican lives don't matter. We're not saying Syrian lives don't matter. I saw a post where someone said, the lives of black children matter. Someone reblogged it with like this long master post of all these different races saying like, oh, so you're saying like these races don't matter? That's not what we're saying. And it's so interesting that when you start talking about race and black lives that people immediately jump to that, because it's like, if I were to say, I don't have kids as you guys know, but if I had a child and if I were to say my child is so gorgeous and so beautiful and perfect, you wouldn't feel like I was saying your child isn't gorgeous, beautiful, and perfect, right? If I say, oh, my hair looks so amazing today, you wouldn't feel like I'm saying your hair looks like shit today. So why when I say my black life matters, do you feel like I'm saying your white life doesn't matter? That's not what I'm saying. And it's just like when race gets interjected, people start getting so defensive and getting all these feelings. And I feel like that kind of goes back into white guilt. You feel deep down, on a subconscious level even, you feel guilty. You feel guilty about what's going on. You feel like people are making you feel guilty. They're trying to make you feel culpable. They're trying to make you, think about something that you didn't do or you didn't participate in. So you immediately react defensively with all lives matter, But again, it's like if you came home and your house was on fire, right? You called the firefighters to come. The firefighters came and they started watering your neighbor's house. You would say, why are you watering my neighbor's house? My house is on fire. And what if the firefighter looked at you and said, all houses matter? You would be furious, right? You'd be like, okay, I get all houses matter, but my house is on fire. Our house is on fire. Black and brown bodies, our house is on fire. Like, we need to focus on our house right now, okay? Like, we need the fire department to hose our house down right now. No one is saying that your house doesn't matter and that your house is not important. We're saying that our house is currently on fire. Black and brown bodies are the ones being specifically and systemically targeted by the police. When a black or brown person dies at the hands of the police, especially unarmed, it's a part of a pattern. When a white person dies, tragically as a part of police brutality, it's not part of a pattern. It's more along the lines of a tragic mistake. And again, it's a symptom of the larger issue of the militarization of police. When a black and brown person dies, it's a symptom of a larger issue of racism. So again, we're talking about two different things, two different protests, two different issues. And a lot of people just feel like, stop trying to springboard off Ferguson when you're not really talking about Ferguson, when you're not really talking about Black lives, when you're talking about something completely different. And like I said with the octopus, understand that what we're talking about, is police brutality as a form of something bigger, as a part of something bigger. And what that something bigger is systemic racism. We can't take race out of it. So don't tell people stop putting race in it. It's about all lives matter, because that's not what we're talking about. Our house is on fire, and Black Lives Matter. So I had one other post that, where is it? I wanted to talk about, last one. I'll read it to you. My last one that went viral, and I really want to talk about this one. Y'all really don't understand how racism and anti-blackness are woven into our society. You really think this is about cases of police brutality, and that if we just deal with the lethal police force, there won't be any lingering racism in society. But that's what caused the problems in the first place. What I want to say about that is, when you say all lives matter, it's not a race thing, it's a police brutality thing. We need to just, fight police brutality. Basically, you're saying that you don't believe, I don't know if I want to say you don't believe that racism exists, or you're saying that if we handle police brutality, there's still, there won't be racism anymore, But it's like, again, that's not what we're saying. Even if we said, okay, you know what, let's just throw caution to the wind and we're all going to make, militarization of police and police brutality our main focus. Even if we succeeded in getting body cameras on every police officer, making it illegal to kill a citizen or an unarmed civilian, removing guns and tasers and weapons so that police can't possibly hurt you or kill you, police can still will stop and frisk more Black or brown bodies. They still will patrol, Black and brown areas at a higher rate. They still will have the power to arrest Black and brown bodies at a higher rate. So even if we dial back on the police brutality specifically, we're still going to have to deal with the issues of racism that plague our police forces. You guys are not thinking critically. I don't want to call you immature or juvenile, but you're not thinking critically. You're not looking at the larger picture. You're focusing specifically on, police brutality and all lives matter, when that's not what we're talking about. Again, our houses are on fire. Our house is on fire. So stop trying to hijack the message. Stop trying to make it about you and your causes. We're trying to fight for something bigger for our children and our children's children, so they won't have to. You know what I'm saying? So just, and then there's tons of people that are white allies that are doing it. Awesome. I saw a great sign. A white girl was holding an awesome sign. It said, end police brutality, end white supremacy, Black Lives Matter, Eric Garner. It didn't say anything about all lives matter. It didn't say anything about, strictly police force. She managed to touch on every issue in the way that issues intersect and interconnect. As I've said in other videos, intersectionality is a thing, Even though we're talking about police brutality, we're also talking about race. We're also talking about classism. So trying to elbow, trying to nudge out race and make it strictly about those other things is inappropriate, and it's disrespectful to the memories of those that died because of the color of their skin. Because don't get it twisted, at the end of the day, that's what killed Mike Brown, that's what killed Tamir Rice, that's what killed Eric Garner, that's what killed Darian Hunt, that's what killed Renisha McBride, that's what killed Ayanna Davis, that's what killed Trayvon Martin, that is what killed Oscar Grant. I could go on and on. Their skin color, not police brutality, not being in the wrong place at the wrong time, not selling Lucy cigarettes, not cosplaying and wearing a Japanese sword, not playing with a toy in a public park. The color of their skin killed them. It is a race issue. Stop trying to remove race and make these movements about something that they're not. Period. It's disrespectful. And only your white supremacy and your ideas of white privilege and that everything has to be about you would even lead you to do that. So I'm going to post tons of links for you guys to check out. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Tuesday, so still at the beginning of the week. And if you guys are participating in protests, just be safe. Don't get arrested. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Food for thought as always. See you next time. Peace.